My friends, today the news is loud. Every television channel, every phone notification, every conversation in the street is talking about one thing: war, crisis, uncertainty. People are asking, what will happen to Asia? What will happen to the economy? What will happen to the world? And when the world panics, most people stop thinking. They freeze. They wait. But today, I want to tell you something important. When everyone is looking at the war, the disciplined person is looking at their life. Because history has taught us something very powerful: countries rise and fall, economies go up and down. But the person who develops discipline always survives every crisis. And that is exactly the message often taught by motivational speaker Yakoi Kenji, who reminds us that success is not about intelligence, but about discipline, because discipline eventually defeats intelligence. So today, instead of asking what will happen to the world, ask yourself a better question. What should I do right now? When a crisis appears in the world, something very predictable happens in human behavior. People stop producing and start consuming. They consume news, rumors, fear, speculation, and endless opinions. They wake up in the morning and the first thing they do is open their phone. Not to learn, not to create, not to improve themselves, but to see what disaster has happened overnight. One notification leads to another, one video leads to another, and suddenly hours have passed. But their life has not moved even one step forward. Fear has a strange power. It gives the illusion that by watching more information, we are becoming more prepared. But in reality, most of the information people consume during a crisis does not help them act. It only makes them anxious. It creates a feeling of urgency without direction. And when people feel overwhelmed, they freeze. They become spectators of history instead of participants in their own lives. Think about this carefully. During every major crisis in history, millions of people stopped their progress because they believed the moment was too uncertain to move forward. They waited. They said they would act when things became clearer, when the world became stable again. But stability never truly comes. The world has always been unpredictable. Wars happen, markets collapse, governments change, and technology transforms entire industries overnight. If a person waits for a calm world before they begin building their future, they will wait forever. This is why discipline becomes so important during times of fear. Discipline allows a person to control what enters their mind. It means deciding that the majority of your time will not be spent watching chaos, but creating value. Instead of spending 3 hours listening to experts, predicting what might happen, you spend those 3 hours improving something real in your life. You read, you practice a skill, you work on a project, you strengthen your body, you strengthen your thinking. These actions may seem small in a single day, but over weeks and months, they create a powerful difference between the person who panics and the person who progresses. Many people believe that productivity requires perfect motivation. They think they must feel inspired to start working on something meaningful. But motivation is unreliable, especially during times of global tension. When people are surrounded by negative news, their emotions become unstable. Discipline does not depend on emotion. Discipline simply says, regardless of what is happening outside, I will still move forward with the things that are under my control. Imagine two individuals living in the same moment of uncertainty. Both of them see the same headlines and hear the same predictions about conflict and instability. The first person spends hours discussing these problems with friends, arguing on social media, and refreshing the news every few minutes. The second person stays informed but limits how much time they give to fear. They decide that their responsibility is still their own life. They work on improving their knowledge, their financial stability, their health, and their mindset. After 6 months, the difference between these two people becomes enormous. One is exhausted and anxious, while the other has grown stronger and more capable. The truth is that the world will always contain some level of danger and uncertainty. But progress has never belonged to those who constantly observe fear. Progress belongs to those who continue creating value even while uncertainty exists. Every skill you learn, every habit you strengthen, every productive action you take becomes a form of protection for your future. Knowledge creates opportunities. Discipline creates stability. and stability allows a person to navigate difficult times without losing direction. So the real question during moments of global tension is not how much news you can consume. The real question is what you are producing with your time and energy. Are you building something that will still matter a year from now, or are you only collecting more information about problems you cannot control? When people shift their focus from consuming fear to producing value, they regain power over their lives. Instead of feeling like victims of global events, they become individuals who continue moving forward no matter what is happening around them. Many people grow up believing that intelligence is the most important advantage in life. From childhood, we hear the same message: the smartest student will succeed, the person with the highest grades will go the furthest, the person who understands things the fastest will win. Because of this belief, many people spend their lives comparing their intelligence with others. Some feel proud because they think they are smarter, while many others feel discouraged because they believe they are not intelligent enough to achieve something meaningful. But reality often tells a very different story. If intelligence alone guaranteed success, the most talented people would always become the most successful. Yet history shows something surprising. Many brilliant individuals never accomplish what they were capable of, while many ordinary people with average intelligence build extraordinary lives. The difference between these two groups is rarely talent. The difference is discipline. Talent is natural. Discipline is a decision. Talent may help someone start faster, but discipline determines who continues when things become difficult. A talented person can understand something quickly, but if they lack the habit of consistent effort, that advantage slowly disappears. On the other hand, a disciplined person may start slowly, may struggle at the beginning, and may take longer to learn new skills. But because they continue practicing every day, their progress compounds over time. Eventually, their persistence closes the gap and often surpasses those who relied only on talent. One of the greatest misunderstandings about discipline is that people believe it requires extraordinary strength or extreme personality traits. They imagine disciplined people as individuals who never feel tired, never feel lazy, and never experience doubt. But discipline is not the absence of weakness. It is simply the ability to act despite weakness. A disciplined person also feels distractions, also feels fear, also feels moments of laziness. The difference is that do not allow those emotions to control their actions. Think about learning any important skill in life. Whether it is building a business, mastering a profession, developing financial stability, or improving physical health. None of these things happen in one moment of intelligence. They happen through thousands of small actions repeated consistently over long periods of time. Intelligence may help someone understand the theory, but discipline is what forces a person to practice when the excitement disappears. Another reason discipline is more powerful than talent is that discipline creates reliability. In every area of life, people eventually learn who can be trusted to deliver results. A person who occasionally performs brilliantly but often fails to follow through becomes unpredictable. Others cannot depend on them. But someone who shows up consistently, completes their responsibilities, and maintains steady effort becomes valuable in any environment. Reliability is a quiet form of power. It builds reputation, trust, and opportunity. Discipline also protects a person from one of the greatest dangers of talent: arrogance. When someone relies only on their natural ability, they can easily become overconfident. They believe success will always come easily. But when they finally encounter a challenge that requires persistence, they may not have the habits necessary to overcome it. A disciplined person, however, is already accustomed to effort. They understand that growth requires patience, and they are prepared to continue even when progress is slow. Over time, discipline creates something extraordinary. It transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results through consistency. Imagine a person improving just one small aspect of their life every day. The change on a single day may seem insignificant, almost invisible. But after months and years, those small improvements accumulate into major transformation. The disciplined person becomes stronger, skilled, more confident, and more capable, not because they were the most talented at the beginning, but because they refused to stop moving forward. This is why discipline eventually defeats intelligence. Intelligence may open a door, but discipline walks through it again and again until mastery is achieved. In a world full of talented individuals who quit too early, the person who continues working quietly and consistently becomes the one who ultimately succeeds. When a crisis appears, the first reaction of most people is fear. It is natural for human beings to feel uncertain when the future becomes unclear. News spreads quickly, rumors grow even faster, and everywhere people begin to talk about what might go wrong. Conversations become filled with worries about the economy, security, jobs, and stability. Many individuals feel as if the ground beneath them has suddenly become fragile. In that moment, the instinct of the majority is to stop moving forward. They pause their plans, postpone their goals, and wait for the situation to become safer. But if we look carefully at history, we discover something very interesting. Moments of crisis have often been the same moments when some of the greatest personal transformations took place. While the majority of people focused on fear, a smaller group of individuals focused on preparation. Instead of asking only what the crisis would take away from them, they asked what they could build during the difficult period. A crisis forces people to confront reality more honestly than comfortable times do. When everything is stable and predictable, it is easy to become complacent. Many people delay their growth because they believe they have plenty of time. They postpone learning new skills, improving their habits, or strengthening their discipline because life feels secure enough. Comfort slowly creates laziness. But when a crisis appears, that illusion disappears. Suddenly people realize that the world can change quickly, and the things they once considered permanent may not be guaranteed. This realization, although uncomfortable, can become one of the most powerful motivations for growth. When people understand that the future is uncertain, they begin to appreciate the importance of preparation. Skills become more valuable. Knowledge becomes more valuable. Discipline becomes more valuable. A person who uses crisis as a signal to strengthen themselves gains an advantage that many others ignore. Think about what usually happens during times of global uncertainty. Some individuals spend most of their time discussing the crisis itself. They repeat the same worries every day. They analyze every new headline and predict new disasters. This constant focus on fear drains their energy and attention. Meanwhile, other individuals quietly invest their time in building capabilities. They read books, develop professional skills, study new technologies, improve their physical health, and organize their finances more carefully. They understand that even though they cannot control global events, they can still control their preparation. Over time, the difference between these two approaches becomes clear. The people who spend their energy only worrying remain in the same position they were before the crisis began. In some cases, they feel even weaker because the stress has reduced their confidence and motivation. But the people who treated the crisis as an opportunity to prepare emerge stronger than before. When the world stabilizes again, they possess more knowledge, more discipline, and more readiness to act. Another powerful effect of crisis is that it reveals character. During easy times, it is difficult to see who truly has resilience. Many people appear confident and capable when conditions are favorable. But when pressure arrives, the true strength of a person becomes visible. Some collapse under uncertainty, while others discover abilities they did not realize they possessed. A crisis can act like a mirror, showing individuals the habits and weaknesses they must improve. This is why difficult moments should not only be seen as threats, but also as invitations to grow. Every challenge contains the possibility of improvement for those who are willing to face it with discipline. Instead of allowing fear to dominate their thinking, strong individuals ask constructive questions. What can I learn from this situation? What skills would make me more prepared for the future? How can I become more adaptable and resilient? The answers to these questions lead to action. Step by step, the person begins strengthening areas of life that were previously ignored. They become more organized, more focused, and more determined to use their time wisely. While the world remains uncertain, their inner stability increases. In the end, crises do not create strength out of nothing. They reveal and accelerate the development of strength that people choose to build. Those who focus only on panic lose valuable time. But those who focus on preparation transform the crisis into a turning point that shapes a stronger version of themselves. One of the most underestimated forces in personal development is the environment a person lives in every day. Many people focus on motivation, inspiration, and big goals, but they ignore the small physical and mental surroundings that shape their behavior. The truth is that environment quietly influences discipline more than most people realize. When the space around you is chaotic, your thoughts often become chaotic as well. When your daily surroundings are disorganized, it becomes harder to think clearly, focus deeply, and maintain consistency in your actions. Look at the way many people live today. Their desks are filled with unfinished tasks, papers scattered everywhere, digital files disorganized, schedules unclear, and daily routines constantly changing. Every small distraction pulls their attention in a different direction. When someone tries to work or study in this kind of environment, their mind is already tired before they even begin. It becomes easier to procrastinate because nothing around them supports concentration or discipline. In contrast, environments that encourage order and simplicity have a powerful psychological effect. When a space is clean, organized, and intentional, it sends a subtle message to the mind. This is a place for focus and purpose. A simple desk, a structured schedule, and a clear list of priorities can dramatically change the way a person approaches their responsibilities. Suddenly, the mind does not need to fight against chaos. Instead, it moves naturally toward productive action. Many disciplined cultures understand this principle deeply. They teach that discipline does not start with complicated strategies or dramatic lifestyle changes. It begins with simple acts of order. Waking up at a consistent time, making the bed, organizing the room, preparing the tools needed for work, and respecting the schedule of the day. These actions may appear small and even insignificant, but they create a rhythm that strengthens self-control. The reason these small habits are so powerful is because discipline grows through repetition. When a person consistently practices order in simple areas of life, the mind becomes trained to follow structure. Over time, that structure expands into other areas such as work, study, health, and relationships. A person who learns to respect small routines gradually develops the ability to manage larger responsibilities. Another important aspect of environment is the control of distractions. In the modern world, distractions are everywhere. Phones constantly demand attention, social media competes for every free moment, and endless notifications interrupt focus. If a person does not intentionally control these influences, their environment will control them instead. Every notification becomes a small invitation to abandon concentration and return to passive consumption. Creating a disciplined environment means deciding what deserves your attention and what does not. It means placing limits on unnecessary distractions and protecting the time needed for meaningful work. Sometimes this requires simple decisions like keeping the phone away during important tasks, scheduling specific times for checking messages, or creating quiet spaces where focus can exist without interruption. Environment also includes the structure of time. Day without structure easily disappears without meaningful progress. When a person wakes up without a clear plan, they often react to whatever appears first instead of moving intentionally toward their goals. But when time is organized, even loosely, the day gains direction. Important tasks receive the energy they deserve instead of being pushed aside by random distractions. Over time, these adjustments transform the way a person experiences daily life. Instead of constantly fighting against disorder, they operate within a system that supports discipline. The environment begins to guide their actions in the right direction. Focus becomes easier, productivity increases, and mental stress decreases because fewer decisions are wasted on unnecessary chaos. Controlling your environment does not require perfection or extreme rigidity. It simply requires awareness and intention. Small changes repeated consistently reshape the spaces and routines that influence your behavior. By creating an environment of order, clarity, and respect for time, you build a foundation where discipline can grow naturally and where your efforts are supported instead of constantly challenged by distraction and disorder. One of the most common habits that prevents people from progressing in life is the habit of waiting. Many individuals are constantly preparing themselves mentally to begin something important, but they postpone the moment of action. They tell themselves that they will start when circumstances become better, when the economy improves, when the situation in the world becomes calmer, when they have more resources, or when they feel more confident. On the surface, these reasons sound logical and responsible. But when we look deeper, we realize that waiting for perfect conditions is often just a polite way of avoiding action. The world has never been a place of perfect stability. Every generation has lived through uncertainty. There have always been wars, economic crises, political conflicts, technological changes, and unexpected events that reshape societies. If we study history carefully, we notice that people who achieved meaningful progress rarely waited for ideal moments. They acted in imperfect situations, adapted to challenges, and continued moving forward even when the future was unclear. Waiting for perfect conditions creates a dangerous illusion. It convinces a person that success requires everything to align perfectly before the first step can be taken. But the reality of growth is very different. Progress almost always begins in conditions that are incomplete, uncomfortable, and uncertain. Most great ideas begin with limited resources. Most meaningful projects begin with doubts and obstacles. Most personal transformations begin when someone decides to act before they feel completely ready. Another problem with waiting is that it slowly weakens confidence. When a person repeatedly delays action, their mind becomes accustomed to hesitation. They begin to believe that they are not prepared enough, skilled enough, or capable enough to move forward. The longer they postpone their efforts, the more intimidating the first step becomes. Eventually, the fear of beginning grows larger than the challenge itself. Action, on the other hand, has the opposite effect. When someone takes even a small step toward a goal, they immediately gain experience. That experience provides feedback, lessons, and new understanding. Instead of imagining all the possible difficulties in their mind, they begin dealing with real situations. Each small action builds familiarity with the process, and familiarity gradually replaces fear. It is important to understand that action does not mean reckless decisions or ignoring reality. Acting despite imperfect conditions simply means starting with what you currently have. It means using available resources, learning as you move forward, and adjusting your strategy along the way. When people begin with this mindset, they discover something surprising. Many obstacles that seemed overwhelming in theory become manageable when approached step by step. Another benefit of acting during uncertain times is that fewer people are willing to take initiative. When the majority of individuals become cautious and hesitant, opportunities often appear for those who remain proactive. While others pause their ambitions, the person who continues learning, building, and experimenting can move forward without as much competition. The courage to act when others hesitate often creates unique advantages. Life rarely rewards those who wait endlessly for safety. Instead, it rewards those who develop the ability to navigate uncertainty with patience and determination. The path forward may not always be clear, and mistakes are almost inevitable. But mistakes made while moving forward teach valuable lessons, while hesitation teaches nothing at all. The truth is that no moment will ever arrive where everything feels perfectly ready. There will always be risks, doubts, and unpredictable circumstances. The difference between those who progress and those who remain stuck is not luck or intelligence. It is the willingness to begin before certainty appears. By choosing to act despite imperfect conditions, a person transforms uncertainty from a barrier into a landscape of possibilities, where each step creates new knowledge, new strength, and new direction. Many people spend their lives chasing safety. They try to create a life without risk, without uncertainty, without discomfort. They build routines designed to avoid mistakes, careers chosen for security rather than passion, and relationships that feel safe instead of meaningful. On the surface, this may seem wise. After all, no one wants to face unnecessary suffering. But the truth is that a life built only for safety often leaves a person weak when real challenges arise. Comfort does not create strength. Safety does not create resilience. Only struggle, discipline, and mental fortitude do. The goal should never be merely a comfortable life. Comfort is temporary, and circumstances can change in an instant. Jobs can disappear, economies can collapse, relationships can falter, and health can decline. If all your life has been built around avoiding risk, the first serious challenge will reveal how fragile that life truly is. A safe life without a strong mind is like a fragile house built on sand. It may look stable. It collapses under the first storm. Strength is cultivated through consistent effort, discipline, and deliberate challenge. It is developed by confronting discomfort rather than avoiding it. The disciplined person does not wait for perfect conditions or for life to feel easy. Instead, they seek out opportunities to test themselves, to push their limits, and to grow in areas that most people ignore. Every time a challenge is met with patience and effort, resilience grows. Every time fear, confronted rather than avoided, confidence is reinforced. Over time, these small victories compound, creating a person who can navigate any storm with clarity and determination. Building a strong mind requires training it to focus on what is within your control. External circumstances will always be unpredictable. Wars, economic crises, health emergencies, and natural disasters are beyond any single person's power to prevent. But how you respond to these events is completely under your control. The disciplined individual learns to concentrate energy on productive action rather than fear or complaint. This focus allows them to continue moving forward even when the world seems to be collapsing around them. Another essential aspect of mental strength is the ability to tolerate uncertainty. Most people seek certainty because it feels safe. They crave predictable outcomes and clear instructions. But life is rarely predictable. Waiting for certainty before taking action guarantees that opportunity will pass by. Strength emerges when you accept that uncertainty is inevitable and take deliberate steps forward despite it. The disciplined mind sees uncertainty not as a threat, but as a natural environment in which growth occurs. Equally important is the development of emotional resilience. Strong minds are not free from fear, doubt, or stress. They simply manage these emotions without being controlled by them. Panic, anxiety, and frustration are natural reactions to difficulty. But disciplined individuals train themselves to pause, analyze, and act rationally. Emotional resilience turns obstacles into challenges to overcome rather than insurmountable barriers. It transforms pressure into fuel, not poison. Mental strength also grows through consistent habits and routines. Small daily actions, repeated over time, create a foundation that can withstand chaos. Waking up early, completing tasks on time, pursuing physical health, and maintaining focus on long-term goals, all examples of actions that train the mind to remain disciplined. These seemingly ordinary habits produce extraordinary results because they build the inner architecture required to face larger crises. Finally, building a strong mind allows you to see opportunity where others see only danger. When most people panic during crises, the disciplined individual remains calm, observant, and ready to act. They understand that challenges create possibilities for growth, skill acquisition, advancement. A strong mind is not paralyzed by fear, it is energized by the ability to adapt, respond, and capitalize on the situation. In the end, a safe life may protect you temporarily, but it cannot guarantee success, resilience, or fulfillment. Strength, discipline, and mental fortitude create true security because they prepare you to thrive in any circumstances. The individual who invests in building a strong mind gains independence from fear, clarity in chaos, and power in uncertainty. While comfort is fleeting, the strength of a disciplined mind lasts a lifetime, transforming every challenge into an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable.